In a world that often measures a man by his outer achievements, this podcast dares to explore what truly defines a man of character. We unpack the challenges and triumphs that shape men's lives, bringing to light stories of resilience, compassion, and unshakable faith. We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Hearts of Men podcast. We're your hosts for this evening's conversation. My name is Dwayne Dwyer, I go by the Mindset Coach, and I am joined by my brothers up top with me. We have the Uncle Junior himself, Mr. Garfield Martin, also known as the Consistency Coach. Below us, we have the son of Timothy, Mr. Tawami Gaddy, also known as the Available Man, and right beside him and below me is our other brother, Lil Roro, a.k.a. Mr. Roland Walker, a.k.a. Mr. Pullman's Dr. Phil, a.k.a. Mr. Shift Happens. Gentlemen, how are you doing on this beautiful Friday evening?
Man, I'm doing well. I thought you was about to say, well, I'm Roro coming in third, like ABC back in the day. But you didn't go there, so I won't go there. But I'm doing great, man. Ready to get on here and glean from you as established and distinguished gentlemen.
Man, I love it.
I mean, he was obviously talking about y'all up there. But I'm doing well. It was a good week. First slow week at work in probably 8 months. So, you know, I can't complain. I'm energized a little bit today. You know,
I'm gonna need that to come out. I need it to come out. It didn't sound like you was
listening to some Taylor Swift. I'm good.
Yeah.
You ain't see it? You ain't see
No,
that
man.
was
That was it.
Hey,
That was it.
he sounded like Kawhi Leonard. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited.
hey,
Oh
I was
my
going to try to
God.
do the laugh. I was thinking that too.
Oh my God. As y'all can see, we're getting started already on this beautiful Friday evening. It is always a pleasure for me to share a conversation with these fine, distinguished gentlemen. But as always, it is our collective pleasure to share a conversation with the finest chat on social media. So that being said, welcome to the show, Michelle Ray, Nick D, NL. It's good to see you. Lisa Keys, welcome, welcome, and welcome. Miss Adrian Artis, good to see you. Miss Uncle Junior, aka Shell, good to see you, sis, and welcome to the show. Crystal Everett, good to see you as always. And last but definitely not least, welcome to the show, Miss Verlene McCoy, aka Queen V. Listen, if this is your first time with us, by all means, if you're on YouTube, look in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and put your cursor over that icon in the lower right-hand corner and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to click the drop down right beside the bell and select all. That way you're notified every time that we go live on this channel, because we run several shows. And again, we want to make sure that we're adding value, regardless of what we're talking about. Darrell Brown, good to see you. Welcome to the show. Look, we had a great conversation last week. If you guys missed it, make sure you go back and check it out. We started talking about them extended families, and we didn't mean to step on nobody's toes. We love all y'all. So this week we're getting into the conversation about limiting belief. So with that being said, let's get this party started. Have you ever felt like there's an invisible barrier holding you back from achieving your dreams? Welcome to the Hearts of Men. Today, we're diving deep into the topic of how to free yourself from limiting beliefs, those negative thoughts that keep you from reaching your fullest potential. Stick with us until the end because we have a special gift that will aid you in your empowerment journey. This gift is designed to help you take concrete steps toward overcoming your limiting beliefs and embracing a life of limitless possibilities. We also invite you to join our community of like-minded individuals who believe in authentic positivity and personal growth. Together, we support and uplift each other, creating a space where everyone can thrive. So let's get started on this transformative journey. Your breakthrough is just around the corner. So as we dive into this conversation, of course, I didn't said it a couple of times, so I'm just going to drop the ball in y'all lap and just ask you a question. Like before we get there, like what are your thoughts on limiting beliefs? Like when I said the term limiting beliefs, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
When you say that term, first thing that a person is that I'm my biggest enemy. So I'm my own naysayer. I'm the one going to talk me out of prospering, out of being better, being greater. Anything that I can, it's a naysayer. I'm my very own naysayer. That's what I first thought.
That's the same thing I was thinking. I was thinking along the terms of like self-doubt when I heard limited belief is, not self-doubt, doubting me and not believing in what either I believe is coming to me or what I'm striving for.
When I thought about the topic, I thought about what is an actual definition of what a limited belief is, and then I also thought about where they come from. Because a lot of times, just anybody, we have a conversation or talk about it or just anything, but we'll start from right here where it's at, but we never really get to like where they come from. You know what I mean? So those are kind of my thoughts about when we start talking. When I saw this, it's like where they come from and what is the actual definition of a limiting belief.
I'm glad you said where they come from because that's what we're going to go after next. And I appreciate everybody's response on their first thoughts when it comes down to limiting belief. I like Adrian's comment as well, missing confidence in my abilities, because I really think that's really what it is. But I think it goes a lot deeper than just me doing the thing. It is believing whether or not I can do a thing, whether or not whatever it is that I'm doing, whether there's going to be any positive outcome, whether I have the makeup to actually do a thing. I will automatically get to the point where I start pulling the negativity out of a thing before I even attempt to do the thing. It's also that mindset to where if anybody presents an opportunity or anything to you, it's almost like you were automatically considered like, oh, they're trying to scam me or something of that nature. So it's a very all-encompassing thought process to where, to where it really prevents you from even pushing forward, so forth and so on. But Uncle, you say you got the definition, so go ahead with the definition. At least I thought you said that.
It's kind of sort of my definition.
Okay.
So I kind of had my own at first, and then I kind of looked up a couple of different terms, and for me, just basically what I got, it's I'm looking at my notes. It's a mindset. It's a mindset or kind of a thought or kind of like a state of mind that hinders or kind of restricts something else. You know what I mean? And whatever that else could be, numerous things. It could be, running a mile, running 2 miles, losing weight, doing this, whatever it be. So I think it kind of comes down to a mindset or thought process or a belief pattern or something that you have in you that prevents something growth. Is usually prevents something positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of like the concept. It is a underlining thought process that exists regardless of whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're considering. It will even get you to the point to where you won't even do anything about it because you will already write yourself off. I think, Roland, you kind of mentioned that previously. So could it be an element of imposter syndrome as well?
Mm.
So if I begin the thing and I'm existing in the thing, I think my initial thoughts is yes. But when we start talking more of a limiting belief, it happens before I even start doing the thing. It exists with me all the way throughout it. So it is an underlining mindset that has some notion of defeat that exists before, during, or even after. So, great question. And, to your question, I can't say that it doesn't, because even if I exist in it now, that still limits in belief now with me doing the thing. I'm not as good as Roland. I'm not as good as, Garfield. I'm not as good as Tawame when it comes down to doing the thing. So, yes, I will say that it exists in there, but it exists in the midst of me doing the thing to where limiting beliefs can even get to the point of preventing you from doing. So I hope that actually makes sense. I hope we got to the point of getting a little bit of clarity on what limiting belief is before we kind of get after it. Gaddy or Roland, you guys had anything else you want to add before we press forward?
No, I think you dig in where we are about to go because you're about to get to the root of the matter. So I think I'm gonna just sit back and go along.
Just going till we get there. Okay, fine. That being said, I want to kind of get after this one because I think this is where we start to unpack and uncover some things. So, in your opinions, your thoughts, what is the origin of limiting beliefs?
Charlotte Ann, my mama, and my daddy, and my greasy granny, right? Just being honest, a lot of times, a lot of these limiting beliefs come from our parents. It come from things that we learned growing up, things that we were taught. How many of us, not now, but how many of us, even as adults, still say, this is just how I am, right? A lot of times, a lot of people heard that as a child. We heard our parents, not necessarily me, but we heard our parents say, this is just who I am. I can't change. You know what I mean? This is the way God made me. You know what I mean? How many times we have heard that? How many times we still hear adults say that? So I think, starting off, I think it's more. I think trauma is a big one too. But I think first of all, I think our parents instill sometimes these limiting beliefs. And it doesn't mean that they're bad parents. It means that they were parenting us with the information and the knowledge that they had at that time. My mom was a parent with me at 18 years old.
I blame Johnny's parents, not
That
not
probably
mine.
is true too.
Because Johnny snot nosed behind always had something negative to say every time I came to the court, and tell me I couldn't shoot. So every time I missed, he got in my head, and now I think I can't shoot because Johnny parents taught him how to bully versus
So are you saying
how to just play.
friends, childhood
Well,
friends, create some of these limiting beliefs?
I am. That's exactly
Sound
what
like
I'm
he's
saying.
saying El DeBarge because I really want to know who's Johnny. But anyway, go ahead.
I like that. I didn't think of that one. I didn't think of
Don't worry, I'll be here all day. I'm plenty. I'm
kids.
full of them.
I didn't think of kids.
Yeah.
Oh, you done with Johnny? Okay. I think it could be all of your past circles, your social circles, your social upbringing. And some of it would be the behaviors that were modeled before you as you grew up. So when somebody said, because you looked at your neighborhood and you say, okay, ain't nobody ever got out of this neighborhood. You either gonna do this, or this. That's all we do. And then people like those phrases. I always heard you either end up dead or in jail. And then Montel Williams back in 1990 came to our school and did a whole thing. It was 1991, one of. He came to our school and he had all the boys sitting in the middle of the court, and he was pointing everybody out. He was saying, statistically, you're going to be this, you're going to be that, you're going to be that. And a lot of us, we listen to the statistics and we formulate our thought and we model our behavior after the statistics instead of saying, man, I'm going to break these cycles. So we run that fear into our lives and we hold on to it and we make it a new norm.
I like it. Mountain, move out of my way. That's how he started that conversation of Montel when he came to the school. He came to our school as well. I like where we're going right now. So I'm gonna kind of go in reverse order and see if we can kind of continue to peel it back. So Garfield, you started off with parents. And I like what you said because I think that's the beginning of it. So if we can kind of go a little bit deeper into that conversation as it pertains to parents, like how does a parent inject a limiting belief into the child? Like where does that stem from, in your opinion? And it's not just for you; it's for everybody.
I think just one of those is just the language and the information that has been used in the house, right? So simply saying when parents say, this is how I am, or when I hear parents say all the time, this is how my child is. I mean, when they come to the school, this is just how Gaddy is. This is just how he is. You know what I mean? So this is how he thinks. This is what they do. And I think that when you do that, like Roland's kind of said, it kind of squeezes you and forces you into a box. So again, I think with the parents, it could just be simply the language and the vocabulary and the words that they're using inside of the house that the young adults and that the kids are picking up or learning along the way as they grow.
I like that. Roland, Gaddy, you guys want to add to that?
I think that some of these things is our fears when it comes from parents. Is how we view things and our experiences and failed relationships and things. We push that off on the children. So now you can't go to a HBCU. All they do is party. I've been to a lot of colleges and all they do is party at all of them, even Christian colleges. And my daughter, when she wanted to go, we in Texas, you want to up and go all the way to Atlanta to Clark. And so the things that go through a dad's mind is like, oh, you thinking of all the negativity, all the things you were thinking at that age, and you push that off on the kids. Like, no, you can't do that because you gonna fall. This gonna happen. Some dude gonna talk to you, And so you start giving them that defeatist mindset before they even jump out the ship.
Dang, I like how Roland brought it back home to himself and just us as parents. I probably said some things in my house from living in here, but I will say this. Here's what I have changed, honestly, just within the last 6 months. Is I have learned. I've been telling my sons, you know what? Sometimes you need to listen to me, and sometimes you need to tell me, Dad, shut up, and I got this. I said because you guys have to learn and live you guys' own life, and I am giving you information based off of what I learned. Like me learning about money is different than how they're learning about money. So I told them sometimes y'all have to tell me, shut up, Dad. I got this. I need to live my own life. So that's kind of the phase where I'm at right now with me parenting and trying not to create a limited belief in my kids, in my sons.
I like it.
For the record, if any Gaddy kids ever watch this episode in the future, don't you tell me to shut up. You better find another language. Be your last word you utter. No.
They can say it in their head.
Oh, they have already.
Not literally. Yeah.
Oh, they probably say worse. Yeah, but when Coach brought up this point, the first thing I thought about, like, how often I heard parents say, well, he just slow, because, maybe your kid don't pick up something as fast. One of my sons, you could tell him to pick something up off the floor that's on top of his foot, and he going to look for it for 30 minutes. But I don't never call him slow. I don't never call, and I think we say some of these things, and some of us we like to but turn two, and we start believing it, and we start speaking it, and it just starts forming into their psyche, So when it comes to that aspect right there, I said we got to be real careful, especially when with young and impressionable kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I was hoping that you guys uncovered a big one, huge one. But that's all right. I'll bring it to the table because I agree. I think the terminology that we use really affect our kids. I think the mindset that we currently have affect our kids as well. And somebody said in the chat that a lot of times we try to, we raise them through the lens of fear. So we're trying to protect them. And a lot of times what we're doing is we're corralling them. We're trying to, here we go. Sometimes parents focus so much on protecting us from failure, they may not necessarily realize that their low expectation creates limits for us. Absolutely. And for me, I would say the biggest limitation that we as parents instill in our kids is a false identity. I will start there because what you have to realize is I'm going back to what Roland mentioned as far as environment is concerned. If your kids believe that their identity is found in their environment, then you have already created a box that you've placed them in. And then they will get to the point to where they only feel that they're capable of doing the things that based upon their identity is telling them. So if they believe their identity is their skin color, if they believe their identity is based upon the limited education that they see in their environment or the, PhD heavy environment that they exist in, right? All of those things, it doesn't really matter what it looks like. So any version of that creates limitation in them. Not just that, believing that my child has to do it the way I did it, that's another limitation. The way that we kind of push them into the workforce, like you got to go to school, you got to get an education, get a good job. Like that's a limitation. We didn't necessarily know it was a limitation back then because that was our understanding of the quote unquote American nightmare. I mean, dream. So that's kind of like what that looks like. And so we inject a lot of limitations in them. Like you got to work twice as hard. You got to be twice as smart. That's a limitation. Um, just all of those things. Instead of just telling your child that they can be whatever they want to be, the sky is the limits. So I think parents are the first gateway to the limitations that a child receives. Now, as they get to a certain age, they start going off and going to school and interacting with people like little Johnny, right? And then, little Johnny now starts putting limitations on you because Johnny dunking and Johnny talking junk and Johnny real slick with the tongue, right? So Johnny gonna call you names, right? And then next thing you know, Johnny gonna call you like when we were growing up, it was too easy to call a person by their skin color, right? So now that's another limitation because that person will start to have some subconscious, something in their subconscious that starts viewing them through that thing that people sees them in. So kids can be brutal when it comes down to the limitations that people start ingesting. And that's kind of like how we fast forward into the day and you hear things such as body shaming. So body shaming can be a limitation if that person ingests it and receives it as well, right? And I'm only using that as an example because it's a highly spoken about portion. Ro, you mentioned environment, and it's not like I'm skipping over friends. We're going to talk about some friends a little as we progress. You mentioned environment, and we kind of got like a little snippet of it. But can you kind of help unpack what that means? Like when we start talking about environments and the limitations that a person can receive from their environment.
When I'm speaking of environment, like the environment that I grew up in, there were pimps, hustlers, drug dealers, dope addicts, winos, and you had a couple of people who may have been professionals, but nobody ever focused on them. So when you looked at your environment, the people that hung out at the grocery store and the people that were hanging out at the liquor store, seemed cool. The people driving around in the cars seemed cool. So now your environment tells you that, okay, this is who I need to be like. Whereas some of us, we had other classes. So we had to actually study in school and we had other friends and teachers kind of gravitated towards us and pulled us in to show us other things. That's why I always tell my children and my grandchildren, I got to let you experience more things because the more things you experience, the more you are to actually gravitate towards what you want to become, other than me saying, okay, well, I went into the military, you got to join the military. Or I got this degree, you got to get this degree. We try to, like you said, we put them into a box and say, this is what I know and I'm comfortable with. So you need to get along and be comfortable with this also, instead of just sharing the world with them and letting them figure out where they are in that world, so that we don't put our limiting beliefs into their heads, and then they make it seem like you think about it. We hear it in church. Oh, from a baby. Oh, he got a microphone, can't even speak. He just yelling on the mic. Oh, he a preacher. And then they groom him to become the person that takes after his father, takes after his grandfather. And he had no earthly idea that he wanted to do this. That's not what he wanted to do. He's not ready for it. But because he's heard it so many years, hey, that's what I'm supposed to be. My granddaddy was one. And some of us have those people say, hey, I know I heard my whole life, oh, he gonna be a good baby maker. That's why I got so many doggone kids, because I heard it my doggone life. For real. I heard it my whole life, and I'm thinking, man, this is what I'm good for. I'm good at this. I'm good for this. And it's a destructive behavior, but they think it's cute because they put some earrings in a little baby ear and they dress him up like the man that they can't have. And then they say, he gonna be this and he gonna be that. And they make him a trash man, a trash husband. And then he becomes that person that you talk about on the internet because you made him that way, but you want to talk bad about him because he is that way. And then you defend him when he's that way towards somebody else's daughter.
Add to the environment, just one
absolutely.
quick thing. Just
Absolutely.
my environment, and I see it, and I see it on a regular basis. But I see and have seen throughout my entire life 4 generations, in the same projects, right? So I think that can be a limiting belief, even though because that's just environmental. So kid 5 years old, 6 years old in elementary school, right? Mama lives in the projects. Grandma lives 2 houses down in the projects. Great grandma is in the apartment behind that, and she's in the projects too. So just right there, just the environment itself and where the child is raised up itself is the limiting belief. They didn't see great grandma get out of the projects. They didn't see grandma get out of the projects, and mom is still in the projects. So when I think of environment, that was kind of the first thing that I thought about. It's just the environment itself can be a very limiting belief. Like when that child goes to school and you tell that child, hey, you can be the next president, that child is like, I got 3 generations. Like, they're not understanding that at 6 years old. But do they really think that they can really go out and do things? None of them people has ever even left a city. You know what I'm saying? So I think just that right there can be part of the environment, how the environment can shape a limiting belief.
And there's a flip side to that belief environment, limited belief, because you're right, because there comes a moment when the goal is hard, right? I'm supposed to be president, but I can't even I didn't even graduate top of my class. Maybe I'm just like everybody else out here that look like me, and and it caused that limited belief. But on the flip side, you have that community could be or should be, and this is just my belief, should be behind that person. Because I talk about, like, for me, everybody knew I wanted to join the military. I don't know why. That's just something I always wanted to do. I just wanted to be in uniform. And it just came a point to where everybody in the community, even in the streets wanted to see me leave the hood and do that. And they rallied behind me. They wouldn't let me get caught up in certain situations, as we got closer to graduation. So that. So I look at it like that. Like we could fix that just by standing behind our children.
Absolutely, we can, and I agree. But going back to it, because we're going to get there. I say it that way, but the notion is I want everybody to clearly understand where a lot of these limitations exist, and I like where Garfield went with it, Because if I see, and of course you live in one generation, but if I see a thing that exists around me every day in and day out, and day in and day out, and day in and day out, I'm submerged in it. And then if the people who are there, they're comfortable in it, them choosing comfort can be a problem for me as I'm growing up because it now becomes a part of my subconscious. I have to reject it. Like, little Roro, I love you, but that ain't why you got all them kids. I'm just gonna say it that way. Listen, I have to reject it, right? But it's hard to reject it if I don't have a role model, if I don't have a person that is speaking something in me that I need to hear. And a lot of times, if I'm in that example that Garfield so elegantly gave us, if I don't have that, and I probably got to get that outside of the home, I probably got to get that outside of the neighborhood. Hopefully, there's going to be a Montel Williams that come to our school and start yelling at the top of his voice, mountain, and I'm think he's crazy, right? Or I see somebody that I look up to, and they say, kind of like what you said, hey, you were destined to be better than that. So I'm not going to let you do that. Hopefully that happens. But again, as a father, I can't leave my child to chance. And a lot of times that's what we do when we choose complacency. And I say that because I think that's a real thing. And a lot of times we don't think about it. I get it. Life beats up on you. You get tired. I get all of that. But you know what? That child needs you to keep pushing, because the higher you go in life, your ceiling now becomes their floor. And that's how you got to look at it. Roland, it looked like you wanted to add something, bro.
Yeah, I think sometimes we even limit ourselves by the environment, so we can say it's like, even if you're the best in that neighborhood, the best in that area, you tend to get the mindset like this is it. This is it. So I'm glad you brought out how when you got to get out that environment, you got to see different things, because we are the only people who don't acknowledge how valuable the inner city is. And that's why when it's not valuable to us and we don't take care of it, because we were told it's the hood, we were told it's the slum, we were told these things. And so other people come and buy it up and they make it what it should be because they see the value in it. We need to start talking to ourselves and say, man, this is valuable property here, and treat it as such. But when you don't, you're going to see it as, oh, this the ghetto, this the hood. And you're going to treat it like that, and you're going to get the same results.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, listen, great conversation so far. Wherever you are, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, Instagram, whether you're on LinkedIn, whatever, go ahead and hit the like button right now. And make sure you share this. As you can see, we're not holding any punches. Like, we're trying to get as deep into this conversation as we possibly can. Again, I see you guys in the chat. I see the value that you're adding, and you guys are really lighting it up, and I'm loving your comments. Keep them coming. And again, by all means, you guys know this is a place where we love questions. So we'll tear up a whole show for a couple of questions. So that being said, the first topic of this conversation is identifying the limiting beliefs. Now, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I kind of want to go a little deeper. The first question here is, what are some recurring negative thoughts or self-doubts that you notice in daily life, and how do they affect actions and decisions?
I think I'll start with one that I used earlier, and that is, "This is how I am." I think we hear that a lot as adults, whether it's from us or people that we're in contact with on a regular basis. I know I hear it all the time. I also work in the industry. Excuse me. I also work around a bunch of kids, so I do hear it from a bunch of kids all the time. But the reality of it is, that's where a lot of times that's where the mindset starts. Excuse me. So again, with this one, "This is how I am." I think what happens, when you open this up a little bit, it prevents everything. When someone says, "You know what, I am just naturally a big person," you know what I mean? So there's nothing I can do about it. I'm always going to be big. This is just how I am. I'm a big guy. You know what I mean? So when you associate yourself at 5'2", 300 pounds as being just a big guy, then there is no need to change or make adjustments. And then at times you may not even be open to listen to new information because your mindset is fixed on this is how I am.
I think I'll say, this is me. This right here. When you go here and say, hey, now you limit yourself, and people like even
Hold
we
on,
do
be
it on
more specific. Are you saying like
black.
because I'm black?
Yeah.
Okay,
I,
okay. I want to
I eat this
clarify.
way because I'm black. I talk this way because I'm black. Or you ain't black because you vote like this. You ain't black because you speak like this. When you speak proper, like when I used to take my daughters home, they be like, oh, they call them little white girls and stuff because they speak like that's the word. What you mean? That's how you're supposed to say it. And it's it becomes a shame or embarrassment to the person early on if you don't curtail it, if you don't hone that in and say no, that's if you got to build them up in that, because if not, they gonna look at other people and say, oh, you act like Carl, you wearing sweaters and khakis and stuff like that. Like, okay, what's wrong with that? Because we want everybody to be in a box and look like whoever we depict on the TV screen. So it's that color for me.
I think sometimes it's the echoes of the things I did not accomplish, or the the measuring stick I put up in front of me compared to some people who I thought I was going to do better than, or whatever the case may be, people that were younger than me. And so sometimes when it comes time for me to do things or strive for things or apply for that job or do something, it's that self-doubt in my head. Well, I'm not educated enough. Did I get the right experience? Did I choose the right MOS when I was in the military? Did I go to enough schools? Do I know this? And and sometimes those thoughts stifle you from even trying, you know, or even if you try, you know, step
At LL,
instead
boy.
of nah, it's that it's that doggone storm. Y'all don't hear them people outside screaming. Nah. But it sometimes when you do move forward, you move forward with that fear, with that voice in your head, and then you start making mistakes because you are overly cautious, or you're not moving in confidence with what you know. And so I just say sometimes you just can't measure yourself to what you didn't, or what you did do, or what someone else did. You just gotta, if you're gonna go for it, go for it.
I like it. I love all these points so far. Roland, I'm gonna take a page out of your book, and I'm gonna go just the opposite direction, because I think because of the skin that we are in, sometimes we believe that we don't have access to certain things. So there could be a limitation that we placed on ourselves based upon some of the information that we heard growing up, based upon some of the propaganda that you're listening to, so forth and so on. And because of my skin color, I don't have access to this. I've only seen one person who was able to do that looks like me my entire life. Therefore, the chances are very slim to none that I will be able to do that. I can't do this, or no one will allow me to do that because of who I am, my skin color, things of that nature. So for me, I think the reoccurring negative thought is always looking at life through the lens of your skin. If you stop looking at life through the lens of your skin and realize that at the end of the day, it's not that your skin is bad, right? Your skin is not bad nor good. It is what it is. But here's the best part about it, that's the lowest part of your existence. So you're not your skin. You're so much more than that. So when you get to the point of removing that limitation off of your thought processes, then you might be surprised at what you're capable of accomplishing. Stop listening to all that other stuff. Stop listening to what you heard growing up. What you heard growing up, I guarantee you right now, if you really stop and think about it, if it didn't come from the right source, it is antiquated information. And if it is antiquated, I promise you that you probably can't use about 75% of it right now. You can use the principles. So if it's not principle driven, then it's really going to stop you moving forward. So I just kind of wanted to touch the other side of that because I like the fact that you brought that to the table, and you're absolutely right. But there's another side of this coin as well, and that other side is that I live life through the skin that I am, and some people have it way up here, and some people have it way down here. And the truth of the matter is that it's right here. It's even. And until we do that, until we get to that point, then we'll stop over glorifying ourselves. We won't stop over glorifying ourselves, and we won't stop thinking so little of ourselves that we won't even try to do something more than what we're doing. All right, very good. Listen, man, I see you guys' comments. I love them. I love them. You guys are awesome. Again, keep them coming. Keep them coming. The next question is, in what areas of your life do you feel most limited? Now, this is for you specifically, panel members. In what area of your life do you feel most limited or stuck? And what specific beliefs might be contributing to these feelings?
I need a second to think about this. I'm just going to be honest.
And as they're answered, I want you guys to answer it in the chat. Again, this is a space where it doesn't matter what your opinion is. It's your opinion. We're all subject matter experts of our own perspective. There is no judgment here. If anybody gets judged, I promise you, the judger will get kicked off the platform.
For me, I will say my laziness comes because I give myself limiting power when I say things like, "Oh, I'm an idea guy. I don't push it out. I don't do the work. I only can do this part of it." Instead of buckling down, actually doing the work of something, I will limit myself and tell myself, well, that's not my portion. That's not what I'm good at. Instead of doing it and getting good, getting better, I will stop myself before that even happens, because it's almost a fear of failure or a fear of success. But I'm not even willing to put myself out there, so I don't do either. And I can just talk about it.
I like that.
I would say, for me has always been going after certain educational goals. I still take classes and I still work towards it, but real slowly. And a part of it is I used to students schooling, I used to look and say, I could have did this if I was a better student. And so because of that, because of whatever struggles or whatever coming up, I used it as an excuse going forward. Every time I could apply for online courses, I tell myself, well, you're not a good student. You got to go in class. And so when I didn't have those opportunities because we were deployed, we was going to the field, we were getting, doing something. It was like, well, maybe later. And, later's still coming, I guess. But now, to me, that I think that's the mindset that contributed to it, is just I use those past experience or past failures that were totally my fault, lack of studying, wanting to have more fun than I wanted to go to school, doing other stuff instead of going to school. But I took that as an opportunity to tell myself I was not capable of just
With the funk, what you got?
Finishing up my notes. So for me, I'm gonna kind of go back a couple of years. It's still personal, but I'm kind of going back a little bit. And one of them was my mindset that where I was limited at was just fulfilling some of my personal goals, right? So, and that came because I was so focused on my work goals, right? But the limiting belief that came from behind that was that, you always, be a hard worker and, make sure your job is a priority. well, not necessarily that one, but you got to put food on the table, right? So we always hearing you got to put food on the table, you got mouths to feed, you got all these different things. So you go in, and sometimes we focus hard on our job or trying to make money that we neglect some of our personal goals and some of the things that we do in life. So for me, that area, and I've worked through a lot of this, but I can remember a time, just a few years ago where that, I was limited or stuck in doing and taking care of myself as a person. You know what I mean? I couldn't get further in certain things. Not necessarily my health was bad, but I could tell some certain things about myself that just I wasn't um, working or operating on all cylinders. And it's because I was so focused on my job and I hadn't taken time out to take care of me, So I think, in some of those limiting beliefs where, you got to put food on the table, you got mouths to feed, baby need a pair of shoes, all of these things that are taught to us. And, especially as adults and parents and stuff like that, that we have to do because we have to make sure that we take care of the people up under us. But one of the biggest things that they left out was taking care of yourself too.
Hmm. I like that. I love all these perspectives, and I really do love the perspectives that I'm seeing in the chats as well. Thank you guys for sharing that. For me, I would say, especially today, um, and I'm still having a hard time with this, allowing people to exist in their own decisions. And here's what I mean when I say that. I believe wholeheartedly that if we're going to do something, we are going to do something, right? But if we are going to do something, then we are all doing it. I think the struggle for me is that, everybody has a right to their own decision, and that's their life. So when they decide, like, hey, this is as far as I want to go, then I'll be like, in my mind, I want to be like, but why? Like, we gotta keep going. And I literally struggle with that because at the end of the day, I know that once you choose complacency, then you're inviting something into your life that is going to feel very uncomfortable. So that's the thing that I really struggle with, especially today, because in my mind, I believe as a community, we can all march forward holding hands, singing kumbaya. I'm joking when I say that, but I'm serious also. But at the end of the day, everybody don't want to go. And that's the part that I struggle with. I struggle with that piece. And I think it's, a friend of mine says, because you care so much. Yeah, I do care, right? But at the end of the day, do I care so much that it becomes detrimental to what it is I'm doing and so forth and so on? So the struggle for me, still yet to this day, the struggle for me is being okay with what somebody else decides to do for their life, even if I understand that the outcome of that decision is not going to be advantageous to them. So there's that. Um, I thought I saw a question that came up. There we go. Why does self doubt bring on negative thoughts?
Because just like you're your own motivator, you become your own source of discouragement. You're not, it's almost like when we used to take PT tests, physical fitness tests, and you have somebody tell you, you got one more. You go ahead, push, keep pushing, keep running. It's like you almost have a little bit more strength, a little bit more energy. But whereas you got somebody saying, man, you ain't gonna do nothing. And it's you telling yourself, you constantly bagging on yourself, you constantly putting yourself down, you constantly doubting your own abilities when other people can see it, it becomes your lack of drive and ability that not it doesn't push you forward, but it pushes you closer and deeper in your seat so you don't go anywhere. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one.
When I see this, I can't unsee the relationship between this question and comparison. right? So if I'm on social media and I'm looking at this person, I'm in the gym 3 days a week, and I'm still not getting buff. And I'm looking at this guy over here rolling. He all jacked up. He all swole. You know what I'm saying? I keep looking at him every time I go on social media. I see rolling with his big chest and his abs hanging out, right? And I'm in the gym and I'm getting it, and I ain't looking like that. So I think sometimes, like I said, with this question, I can't unsee the comparison model and how, when you look at Roland and you see him as big, you're like, man, I can't do that. I can't look like that. Well, why am I even in here 5, 6, 7 days a week? So that's just me, man. Abs.
Okay, just want to make.
ABS.
I'm sorry, man.
Just to clarify,
I just want to
abs.
make sure. Oh my gosh.
That's my 2 cents, man.
Just so y'all know, Brother Gaddis having some weather right now, so he's gonna take a knee until it gets cleared up for him to talk. I love this question, and if you guys remember when we did the conversation on positivity, I said back then, I said life is an equation, and the more you understand the equation, the better off you will be. Well, the first thing you have to understand is that every equation starts from a particular root, that root being your mindset. So, that being said, if I have a negative mindset, everything that I think will fall into the equation, first beginning with negativity. And simple math, we all understand that a negative plus a positive will yield a negative time a positive will yield a negative, right? So at the end of the day, when I have self-doubt, then the end result is going to be some type of negative output. Therefore, when I say self-doubt, for me, I don't believe that I can do a thing. And then let's just say I have to create this widget. This is what I'm going to build. This is what somebody said they want me to build. Well, because I have a negative self-talk within me, and we're going to get here in a second, that negative self-talk will now project itself on the thing that I'm supposed to make. Therefore, my end state would be, oh, I don't think I can make that. It may not look as good as the one that Garfield make. I'm not necessarily sure I'm the right person for this. So when you brought this question to the table, I love it because self-doubt, that negative thought that you're having about yourself, is the beginning of an equation that will yield a negative outcome. You can't pull positivity from a bed of lies. That's the first thing you need to understand. So if you have a negative foundation in your garden, then the root of it, the fruit of it, will be a negative outcome. And then you will start looking at things when things happen to you. You will look at them as luck or happenstance or whatever the case may be. You'll never see it as me being capable of doing that. Even when people start to give you compliments because you did do something good, you're going to make an excuse that, oh, well, it was just luck. I don't know how that happened. It just happened. So I hope we answered that question. And again, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. Okay. Moving forward, understanding the impact of limiting beliefs, right? So the first question here, and I think I kind of gave it, how have your limiting beliefs influenced your decisions and actions in key areas of your life, such as career, relationships, and personal goal? I will be surprised if we get off this question for the rest of this night.
There's a whole lot here, man. And I would say for me, just starting off, my limiting beliefs has probably, I know they have changed or adjusted throughout my 48 years of life too. I remember once in the military having a belief that certain people couldn't. No, I don't want to use that one. I won't give an analogy for that one. I don't know. I need to think on it some more. So, we're gonna come back to.
Well, when I was at about 9 years in the military, I was supposed to go. I was going to college and everything, and the plan was to go switch over. to become an officer. But listening to other people and allowing their beliefs to become mine, saying, well, you want to work for your money. Officers don't work for their money and all this other stuff. It made all that work I did in college obsolete, because now I'm saying, yeah, I want to work for my money. I want to continue to be an NCO and be the best, this, that, and the other, instead of taking the track that I had set forth with my schooling, making more money, doing less manual labor. So I said, no, I ain't gonna do that. And I stopped that route, and I wish I hadn't, because, I think the benefit would have been much greater. And I think it would have allowed me to get into various circles, which would have enhanced my life in different ways as well.
All right, I got one. My limiting belief caused me to stay in a marriage way longer than what I was supposed to. And that limited belief was only the information that I had received about marriage growing up in church.
Man, if I can unhook my mic, I would throw it right now. Like, seriously. Could you make it? You can't just put that out there and not give us the details behind it.
Yeah, that was a very limited belief. I only believe that once I got married, I could not get divorced. That was the limited belief. Just that one little statement right there caused me years, and her too, of agony and pain and blood and sweat and tears and arguments and late nights. All because I had that limited belief. I never went outside. I didn't dig deeper to research. I didn't go outside and look for other ways of trying to handle things. I just took that at face value. Once you get married, you're supposed to be married forever. And that right there, that very limited belief caused me to be married way longer than what I was supposed to. And I am not throwing any shade on my ex-wife or anything like that. She will probably tell you the same thing, that we stayed married probably a lot longer than what we should have, based off of what we know and the information we know now, many years past our relationship. So for me, that was a huge one.
I mean, you ain't gonna put that in the chat and just ain't gonna
Let's
say
hope
nothing
my
about it.
dollar.
Hey,
I'm just
man,
saying.
hey, because, and I'm glad that he said that, because I wasn't even thinking about that. And I've been in that boat where you've heard people tell you, oh, what God has put together, let no man put asunder. It's not talking about that. But we make it that, we force that, and we say, well, you got to work it out. You got to, and knowing that it wasn't the Most High that put this thing together, it was me. It was us. I seen her dancing, and she seen me, and we got together off of physical traits, not spiritual anything. Wasn't even thinking about them, even before the day or whenever. Wasn't thinking about the Most High. We just say we're gonna stand before God and all these people and say what? Say I will do these things. No, we're not. But we, instead of learning whatever book you read, whatever laws, statutes, commandments you adhere to, learn what they are instead of allowing someone to tell you what they are. And that's what we have become accustomed to, allowing other people to tell us how our lives are supposed to go, because somebody told them how their lives were supposed to go, instead of you saying, man, let me search this thing out so that I can get with somebody that we are, when we're connected, I realize that the two have become one, instead of thinking that when we have intercourse, we have become one.
See, I thought you guys were going to start off with this. Well, that's why I said it might be hard for us to get off this question. I agree with everything that was just said. I think, and I kind of want to go back and touch on what you said there, It's not a problem with someone telling us what it actually says, but you still need to go verify what it is that they're telling you. Like just because one person said a thing or the pastor stood in the pulpit and preached a thing, like you need to be able to go and look and see it for yourself to such a degree that it actually makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, go ask questions. Like talk to somebody who you know studies it and so forth and so on. One of the things that, to your point, I agree wholeheartedly. We heard that time and time again, and it was a staple in our community to where if you got a divorce, it's a black eye. And I think we need to understand when we start talking about things, understand who he's talking to and what he's talking about. And I think too many times what we've done is we've conflated information and we say anytime we see a word, that word goes to what I think it is because that's the word in which I relate it. Therefore, it must be that. Well, let's just be honest. I think it was Roland. I think Roland, you mentioned that God didn't put Tyrone and Tamika together. Tyrone and Tamika put Tyrone and Tamika together. So when we confuse that, then what we end up doing is we will hold ourselves hostage to a thing because I did something under a particular mindset. I did something without knowing exactly what the scripture is actually saying, who he was actually talking to, what it actually says as it pertains to that. If he didn't put it together, then it does not apply to that. So when I made this decision back here, can I literally say that that's what I was thinking? Can I say that I was thinking about what the scripture said when I seen Tamika and whatever the case may be? Right? I don't know. No, well, I do know Tamika, but we ain't never been married. I'm just using that as an example. Can I say that that's what we had in mind? Can I say that that's what we talked about? Can I say that our relationship was rooted in what the word actually says back then? If the answer is no, then the answer is that we decided this. We did this under our own will, under our own flesh. And then what we did is held ourselves hostage to that. So I love the fact that you mentioned that because you are absolutely right. And I'm telling you, there's still some people to this day that are stuck in that mindset. They're fighting like cats and dogs. They can't get along. They're developing coping mechanisms for existing under the same roof with the same person. They don't even sleep in the same bed at night. But at the end of the day, because they have this fear, then they just cohabitating, and that's their thing. Man, you guys are dangerous. I love it. Dangerous in a good way, though. Dangerous in a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah, dangerous. Yeah, dangerous in a good way.
Man, that was the truth, man. I knew I was gonna circle back around and get to something, man, and I guess I don't want to harp on it too much, man. But I just remember, a lot of us, this kind of goes back to our parents, not on our parents, but just us growing up and how even at an early age, we were influenced in so many different things. Just going to a particular church your entire life, growing up, like you're influenced by that church and what that priester says and what the pastors and the elders and the deacons say. What goes on in that church, those things roll over into the household. We got a lot of those fire and brimstone messages. Anything you do, you going to hell. So when you and I'm not knocking shade. I think it gave me a great foundation for my relationship with my creator. So I'm very thankful for my parents for raising us up and bringing us up in the church and stuff like this. But however, as I got older and I flipped through the pages a little bit more and dig a little bit deeper and asked more questions and got more understanding, just things became different, and I wasn't willing to live by a very limited mindset anymore, and it was a struggle. It was a struggle to get off from up under some of those things that you have been taught your whole entire life, because sometimes, we're in that fixed mindset and we're not always willing to open to new information. Right now, I guess we can put in the chat right now, ask everybody what their religious affiliation is, and ask if somebody from a different affiliation came by and asked you, would you switch religions? Probably 9.99% of people will say no. They're not even open to having a conversation about changing their religion. You know what I mean? So that's how ingrained some of these, and I'm not saying that is a self-limiting belief, but I am saying is, when you have something ingrained in you from birth, you know what I mean? As an adult, it can be very hard sometimes to kick some of these different things. All of us are born in the United States. If we was born in Iraq, how many of us right now would consider ourselves Christian? To be honest, so it is what it is. But I guess that's my 2 cents for that.
Great 2 cents it was, so I greatly appreciate that. Ro, you got something to add to that, man?
I know he do. I wanted him to add something to
He
it.
leaning back.
I know. He ready. You can do Gaddy's part or either Chris's part. Like we did. Chris was here last week in spirit.
In spirit. You got my juices going, because I was thinking that there's some limiting beliefs that we all, I can say me, because I can't speak for anybody else, but I know there were certain things that I held on to, and I'm trying to see, I don't want to get us cut off. I'm trying, I don't use vulgar language, but I'm trying to make sure that I don't say wrong things. Put the question back up. Let me make sure I want to be on point with the question. What areas in life feel limited? I think when I always limited myself on purpose because of how other people would perceive some certain things. Whereas I always looked at, and I'm trying not to sound wrong, but look, being a decent looking person, you looked at a certain way. And people will force their views on you, how you should act, how you should be. Oh, you think you this, or you think you that. So in turn, I would do the opposite. I would dumb it down. I would play it back. Oh, I'm not this and I'm not that. It's a self-deprecating thing where you sit up and you got to be the person to bash you before somebody else does. You got to be the person to make sure, like, I was good in sports, but instead of me rah-rahing me, I had, I'm gonna play it down. I'll let everybody else do it because I don't want to seem cocky. I don't want to seem this. I don't want to seem that. Like, I got scholarships. Come on now. So yeah, I'm good. But because of how other people may take it, I said, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna sit up there and rock the boat because it may hurt their feelings. It may bother them and their whatever it is, psyche. And I don't want to be that person where I'm looked at as this, because when they look at that person, it's always animosity stemming towards that person instead of looking at them saying, man, they did it. They start out like that, but when you make it, like you see, everybody used to be, oh man, this person is so funny. This person is so this. And then when they make it, oh, Beyonce, the greatest thing since Crunchy Peanut Butter. But then when she make it, everybody hating on her. Everybody hating on this person and that person because they love to see your successful trip. But when you reach success, they hate it because it shows them where they aren't and where you are. And it shows a gap of production.
I get that. I get that. I will also add to that a lot of times when people make it, they really show their true colors as well. Here's another thing I'm gonna add, and then I'm gonna, we're gonna move on because I'm gonna go back to the relationship thing, because this is the thing that I think that we struggle more with when it comes down to our community. We struggle. I'm just gonna call it spade to spade. We suck when it comes to relationship. That's what I really do believe. I think collectively within our community, we suck as it pertains to relationship. And the question I've asked myself on several occasions, why? Why is that the case? Number one, there is so much competition that exists in our community that is mind numbing. I mean, it is like exacerbating when you really stop and think about how much competition we exist in. There's competition outside. It's competition at work. It's competition at school. It's competition in the neighborhood. It's competition in the house. Like, it doesn't make sense. Why do we view each other as competition? And so when it comes down to that belief for me, it took me to kind of take a step back. Like, I shouldn't be competing with you guys. I should be uplifting and helping. Like, I should want to see you successful. Well, why does that exist? Because we believe that we exist in a society where there's limited resources. Well, why do we think that it's the case? Because everything that we're here talks about limited resources. We got a water shortage. All that ocean out there, you mean to tell me it's a shortage of water? Why does that make sense? Oh, we're in a national deficit. Really? I know how much I pay every month in taxes. I don't know about y'all, but if y'all paying anything close to what I'm paying in tax, there's no way in the world there's any sort of deficit, let alone a national. So yeah, it's and I think because we just keep absorbing all of this information that is just negative, negative. Oh, you got to hurry and get your vaccine because we're running out. Like all of this negative information, it puts us in a place of competition, even in the space of like marriage. Believe it or not, there is competition in marriage. Well, I'm gonna go back to my favorite couple, Tyrone and Tamika. Let's just say one of them run afoul. I've been quoting life all day long. So if one of them run afoul to the other, then one of them wants to be the judge in the jury for the other one and hold that person on court for as long as they feel they should hold them on trial. But wait, didn't we just say that when a man leaves his mother and his father and cleaves his bride, they become one flesh? Well, if they become one flesh, then how did they divide when somebody did something wrong? I give you another thought. Something I think I have crazy thoughts. That's just me. One point in time, I used to think that, well, if Adam did not partake of the fruit, then mankind would have been okay. But then I was like, wait, why is that a thing? If they were one flesh, so mankind was doomed when she partook of the fruit because he was supposed to be responsible for her. And I got it. Somebody didn't like the fact that I said that. She's her own person. Yeah, I get all of that. But at the end of the day, they're supposed to be one flesh. You can't be your own person when you're one flesh. So make that make sense to me. So that's the thing. Within the space of intimate relationship, there's still competition. And the reason why I say that, because if you do one thing wrong, now I got to hold you in contempt. No. Why don't I look at it from the perspective of say, hey, we did this wrong. I understand you did the act, but we committed the sin. That's what we need to take a look at. So if we stop looking at things from a separatist perspective, I'm my own individual. No, you're not your own individual. You've never been your own individual from day one. So stop it. Stop saying that, because at the end of the day, it's an untruth, right? We create certain things in our own mind, and it continues to perpetuate the issues that we're in. Until we figure out that we're better together, that we're supposed to be helping one another, then we're going to always be caught in the cycle. I'm off my soapbox, gentlemen. Your thoughts before we move on.
I'm done with my soapbox too.
Okay, just want to make sure. If all y'all looking at me sideways, stop it. I love all y'all. Okay, next question. I think we got time for maybe two more. Let's see if we can get two more in. Where we at now? Okay. What emotional and mental patterns do you notice when you encounter challenges or setbacks? And how might these be linked to your limiting beliefs?
I would say this. I don't know how they're linked to my limiting beliefs yet. I literally just thought of one. Mine, laziness. I get lazy, right? Mentally and physically. I may still get up and work out, but just overall just feel lazy, just feel groggy mentally, physically, when I encounter some of these. Yeah, for me, that's it. I want to start with that, when things are not clicking on all cylinders. Like I literally told my wife today that I think that my vitamin D is low. But I also know that it could be some emotional and mental things that's going on. It's the end of the school year, stress levels have adjusted, people are, not coming to work, just a lot of things going on by the end of the year. But I'm trying to see if I can link them to some of my limiting beliefs. So I will want to start off with, what emotional and mental patterns do you notice when you encounter challenges or setbacks? And mine is just a mental laziness. Like I really just don't want to do certain things. It's like, hey, go clean up the shoes in your office because you got 8 pair not inside the box, right? So I'm looking at 8 pair of shoes here. But just like, man, I don't feel like doing it. You know what I mean? So like stuff like that. How it links to my limiting beliefs, I haven't figured it out yet because just got posed the question.
I think I've learned to mask emotions. So I may be feeling one way, but I can articulate it another way and not show the fear that's going on inside, the anxiousness or anxiety that's going on inside. So I will hold things together, and I'm looking, instead of saying, man, because I'm trying to hold everything together and trying to make sure I have a sturdy front, that so other people won't be fearful. So now I got to put up a front like I got it all together. I'm holding this thing down, knowing deep inside, I'm like, oh God, dog, how I'm gonna do this? And I'm thinking, and I'm driving myself crazy internally because I've learned how to mask it. I learned how to not go into that area where, because and still to this day, I don't think that men should. It's like you handle things. So I tell myself, you got to handle it. Like whatever it is, okay, handle it. Don't trip about it. Let other people trip. You can't be the one tripping. So it may be a time where I'm up there like, man, I'm going crazy internally, but outwardly, I feel I can't show that, because if I show that, it's showing a sign of weakness, and that may be a weakness in itself because it's hurting the whole.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate both of your responses, and I can see that. Not in you, but I'm saying I can see how that can be um, a, um, a mental pattern or emotion when it comes down to challenges or setbacks. For me, I will start this off by saying that thinkers think. So, whenever I encounter challenges and setbacks, I think. And again, for me at this point, I have to get to the point that I have to be conscious about what I'm thinking, because I automatically go into thinking, okay, well, this is the problem or this is the challenge. Okay, then this might happen and this might happen and this might happen. So I start going down the road, and you got to be careful, especially thinkers. So if any thinkers out there, listen closely. You got to be careful, because you will start identifying every problem that is coming along with that challenge or that setback, right? So if this happens, then this could potentially happen next. Then this can potentially happen next, and this can potentially happen next. There is no evidence of all of this whole lineage that you're putting together in your head. There is no evidence that that's going to happen. It's just a challenge or a setback in the here and now. But you start going in the future and start stringing together all of these things that could potentially happen. So for me, I have to be conscious about what it is I'm thinking about. Once I notice me going down that, then I got to literally jolt myself back to reality, because it's too easy to go down that negative road. But then I have to say, hey, but this could potentially happen if you do this right now. And if you do this right now, you could create the outcome that takes it out of this lineage of the negative things that can happen and put it into positive things that can happen. So for me, like I said, as a thinker, I constantly think. And once challenges come to play, then I start thinking of all the negative things that can happen after that. But I have to again pull myself back to reality. So great response. Go ahead.
I'm gonna jump on yours. I consider myself a thinker too. But until you said it, I didn't. It just made what I say kind of. It created a little more clarity for me. I think some of the laziness that I get is from the mental fatigue, because, like you said, I do the same thing. When I do have this setback, I think a lot because I'm trying to figure it out. Like and Shell will tell you, like sometimes it's not that I don't want to be bothered. It's not that anything that she's done anything. It's I am trying to figure out a problem. I was having a conversation with my cousin today. It might have been my brother, somebody today. And I was like, I already know how I am. Like when I lose something, like I will tear this house up looking for it. I'll spend an hour or 2 hours trying to find something, because like it could be something small, like my chapstick. So I keep things, my wife would tell you, one of the things I say around here is that everything has its place. There's a place for everything. And because I know that I will have anxiety looking for 2 hours to find something, I tend to put things back. Now, even though my shoes are over here in the floor, the boxes are right beside them, right? So that's a little different. So I know where they're at, but yeah, I think a lot, and then when I'm having some of these emotional things going on in my life, and then that causes some mental fatigue, and I just don't want to do anything. But I still haven't figured out where it may what limiting belief that it may be linked to. So if I don't come up one today for the show or something like that, then I'll come up with one for myself later on down the road. And you know what? It may be a good opportunity for me and just like anybody else to share the show with somebody or for me to watch it later. Because I definitely want to figure out what is causing this limiting belief. You muted, Coach.
My bad. Yeah, so thank you for saying that. And again, I want to kind of put this out here now. Like, this is not going to be the last conversation that we're going to have on limiting belief. So we're going to talk about it today. I'm going to talk about it on TikTok on Sunday, and we're going to talk about it again on Tuesday on Coach's Corner. So we're going to get a lot of conversations because I really want us to overcome self-limiting beliefs. Michelle Ray has a great question. If you can bring that up, there we go. Is there a thin line between realistic expectation and negativity?
Thin line? I don't think so. Because negativity only focuses on the negative. It doesn't try to brainstorm and find any positive result because you've already settled in your mind, this is what it is. Whereas realistically, something or somebody's personality traits or something happening coming from someone, I think you always think realistically, but realistically, there are multiple outcomes. But when you focus in or hone in on one, it is what it is. You already set your mind on that one. That's negativity, because even like I always say, if I think something's negative, I always try to find 3 positives. Like, it's something by something. I got in an accident. Okay. Like when I got in an accident, when the woman hit me, T-boned me, I'm trying to make sure she's okay. And then people up there talking about, they trying to make sure I'm trying to get a lawsuit. Think about a lawsuit. I'm all right. She all right. I'm good. I ain't worried about that. The other stuff are paying out. I think where you focus, now you always look at things realistically, but you never pigeonhole it to the negative slant because there's multiple angles of what could happen, but your could can't stay on the negative side.
See, for me, I need a little more. I need to kind of understand. I maybe need an example. So this is as far as I got it with my example in my head, right? I need some help if y'all can add to it. So a realistic expectation for me in 2024 is to complete a marathon, right? I've already done a half this year. I've done a half a couple of years ago, but I haven't done the whole. So that's a realistic expectation. So now I'm trying to figure out a thin line between that and what could be a negativity in this. Go ahead.
Why did you stop at 1? That's the thin line.
He gave himself a ceiling.
Right.
Gave myself a ceiling.
Anything that comes from what your initial thoughts are, even though it can be realistic, you have to realize that in some shape, form, or fashion, it can be perceived as negative if you don't believe that you can do more than that. Why did you not believe I can do 3 marathons in 1 year? Why can't I do a marathon a quarter, which means I can do 4 marathons in 1 year? You see what I'm saying? In most cases, our conscious thoughts come from our subconscious mind, which equates to like our experiences, our upbringing, our education, so forth and so on. So even within that, there is limitation. Everybody has limitations when it comes under their belief system. There's only 2 people that fall in that category, right? The ones who know it and the ones who lie to themselves about it. That's it. Those are the only two categories. Everybody has limiting beliefs, period. So that being said, that's why people pay people like you and me so that we can challenge their limiting beliefs. So when you say my initial goal is to run one marathon this year, first thing came to mind, why did you stop at one? And just by me asking you that question, be like, you know what? Your next startup, like, yeah, I can do two. Why did you stop at two? You see what I'm saying? And so now at the end of it, you're like, you know what? 2025, I'm doing 4 marathons in 2025. That's my dude. You see what I'm saying?
Y'all see Coach trying to put that limiting belief on me? I'm doing 8.
That's it. That's it. That's why when you hear people say, I don't need nobody else, they are literally setting themselves up for failure when they have that mentality, because you will always need somebody else to inject a thought in you outside of what you can think. And you want to make sure that you have the right person, because ideally what ends up happening, if you select the wrong person, they're going to instill negativity. And what does that look like? Crabs in a bucket. But that by itself is a limiting belief, because how do you know the crabs ain't reaching down trying to pull other people up?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like there's a number, like within this thing that we call life, there's an ungodly amount of like choices that we can make. So why do we keep making the same choices? Like if you follow your life pattern, your choices fall in a particular pattern. And a lot of times what we choose is we choose safe over adventurous, right? We choose safety over what can stretch me. And ideally, what you don't realize is that you have a degree of resiliency within you that once and all of you witness it when we went to basic training. And so it's been a point in basic training, man, you was tired, you was exhausted, you was sore. But then in the end, we was high-fiving, clapping, and all that other good stuff, because we were pushed beyond what we originally thought we was going to do. Wasn't thinking about walking no 12 miles with no rucksack on my back and a forced march at that. Come on, man, stop playing. Next thing you know, we're doing it once a quarter in the Army. So that's kind of like my point into this question. And that's why I so love that question. Thank you, Michelle. I want to get in one more question before we get out, because I don't want to not give a solution after we literally done painted like a huge problem that everybody has, right? So practical steps to overcome limiting beliefs. So the question here, the only question we're going to encounter is the first question. And that first question is, what specific achievable goals can you set for yourself that challenge your limiting beliefs? And how can you break these goals down into manageable steps? Now I give others a hint. So you can't say what I said. I just gave you an example. Now go ahead.
I think first, identifying where your limiting beliefs are, whether that's your negativity or where you add limits to how far you can go, how high you can jump, whatever, because that has to do with the work that you're willing to put in. And then understand how it impacts your mental. Because when you start telling yourself what you can't do, oh, I can only do one a year. So you mean you just gonna be prepared to do one a year, not that you prepared to do one whenever you just want to do it. So identify and understand how it affects your mental and your surroundings, because it has an effect, and you have to notice it so that you can do the changing, so that you can make sure you change your patterns, change your behaviors, change how you talk to yourself, change how the things that allow other people to input into your life, because it matters.
I'll start by saying that first of all, the goals need to be realistic. So first of all, with the goals, what specific achievable goals can you set for yourself? Set realistic goals, first of all. I think that's where we get in, somebody like, man, not saying that this is not when it comes to a limiting belief, but just realistic, like, should I really set a goal to do a marathon every day for 30 days when I haven't really trained? Probably not. But that probably wouldn't be a realistic goal. So I think for the first part of this is start off with setting realistic goals. But and they still need to challenge your limiting beliefs at the same time, but they need to be realistic. And then how you can break these goals down into manageable pieces. Honestly, simple. Whiteboard, something to write down, break them down, and maybe even sit down with a coach or sit down with somebody who's knowledgeable in this and help you kind of walk through some of these manageable steps. So me, first of all, is to set the realistic goals and then have somebody, some sort of support system or someone to help you walk down and help you break down these goals. Because the thing about having somebody on the other side, whether it's a coach or whether it's a friend, whether it's a guru, whoever it is, you feel comfortable or feel like that they're knowledgeable about something like this, because what they can do, if I set realistic goals and I sit down and have a conversation with Roland, right, I'm going to get different response than I'm going to get if I run it by coach. You know what I mean? So I may take what both of them say and help me be able to manage and break these down into steps. So like, again, real quick, set realistic goals and some sort of support system to maybe help you break these down into manageable steps.
You know what? I like that. I'm going to take what you said a step further, right? I want you to set a goal so lofty, right, that in your mind, if you was to achieve it, you would literally surprise yourself. Once you set that, then you set, I'm sorry, let me say it the right way. You set an aspiration, right? Like I call this Moby Dick. You set it so high that, once you achieve it, like you're like, my goodness, I don't believe I did that. Then up under it, you set goals, right? Those goals are achievable incrementally along the way throughout time. And then what you have to do is make them smart, right? So be specific, measurable, attainable, relative, and based upon time. So you set SMART goals all in the direction of your aspiration. And then here's the kicker. Make sure that you have an accountability partner that does not mind making you mad. I'm going to say it again. Get an accountability partner that does not mind making you mad. If you choose an accountability partner that wants to spare your feelings at every step along the way, they're not a good accountability partner. They're just going to tell you what you want to hear when you choose not to quit. You choose somebody that's going to say, hey, you know what? You said you was going to do this, so let's get after it. And at the end of the day, that's going to be the one that pushes you. So again, and this kind of goes back to what Garfield's saying. In most cases, what you need is to invest in the future that you really want. And that investment really is in yourself, because when you start being held to that level of accountability, like, they don't really care how you feel about you not doing the job. When they say, hey, this is what you said you was going to do, you didn't do it. Okay, there's no meeting today. Go do that. Then we'll pick up the next time. That's just it. That's the conversation. There's not a whole lot to talk about after that, because you didn't keep your part of the agreement. And that's what we're talking about. So again, set a lofty goal, then set a lofty aspiration, and then set the benchmarks, the goals up under that, and then make sure that you have an accountability partner that walks you from goal to goal to goal until you get closer to that. So
now, that big lofty goal, how achievable does it need to be? Does it need to be unachievable?
Sure. Because how will you say it's a goal? It should not be something that you can think of right now and say, yeah, I'm going to do that. It needs to be high.
My mindset right now, right? So here's what I'm initially thinking, and maybe we'll hit on this Tuesday or another time. But me setting off to do a marathon, which is 26 miles, even 26 days, 26 by 26.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do 26 miles every day for 26 days. If I set that goal, I already know in my mind when I'm setting this goal that it's not achievable.
Right. Agreed.
You know what I mean? So am I going to work towards that goal if I already know I'm not going to achieve it anyway?
But which is the goal? Is the goal to run a marathon for 26 miles or run 26 miles a day?
26 miles in 26 days.
20. Well, okay, so that's part of the
Yeah. So it mean I would do 26 miles every single day.
no, that's not a goal. That's a sentence.
Death sentence.
Yeah, that's a sentence.
Okay.
I didn't
all
want to
right.
say that, but that's a sentence.
Yeah, so that's what I was meant because you said a lofty goal. But I know, like, if I set that goal, I already know going in, I ain't doing 26 miles every day.
Right.
Like,
Garfield, when we were in the military,
yeah.
and I probably can speak for y'all, some people looked at the PT test and they say, okay, what I got to do, 60 push-ups, 60 sit-ups, and stuff like that.
Right.
We didn't do that. I would say in my head, I'm trying to max out in the first minute. So my goal is lofty. If I get it, probably don't, but I'm going to get close. And then now I'm measuring. Okay, I got real close. Now I can measure, okay, how close am I this time? Now, what I got to do to get better so I can try to, because I want to get that goal. Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to do 300 push-ups in a minute, ain't going to happen. Ain't going to
So even having a lofty goal in the Army is, I'm going to make Sergeant Major in 18. It happens. I've known people who made it in 16. It's a lofty goal. However, there are a lot of steps that go into it in order to achieve it. Yeah. But even if I don't make it and I retire at E7, I'm good.
Well, so to that point, we're talking about what you can do. The Sergeant Major example, even though is a good example, once you get to a certain point, you start looking at decentralized promotions, and you don't have to control that. Going back to Roland's example about
PT,
right? Because I'm gonna tell you, I will give you my technique on what I did when I was in the Army. My goal in the Army was to max my PT test. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
And so I knew when it came time to take an APFT, I had the backwards plan from the APFT. And then I started my train up for the APFT. What was my train up? My train up, no joke, at one point in time was 50 push-ups every hour on the hour for a full duty day. So by the time I go to work, I will start doing push-ups. Every hour, I'm doing push-ups because I could do 50 push-ups easy. Why am I doing that? Because I think the max was like 77.
Yeah.
And so my goal, I think it was 77 push-ups and 82 sit-ups. So my goal was to max the push-ups in the first minute. And there has not been one PT test that once I hit that minute mark, I didn't get up. And people looking at me like I'm crazy. Well, how did he do them all? Yeah, he did. So those are limiting beliefs. Like, did he really do all of them? Yeah, he did them all. He did all 77. He did 80 for good measures. And then he got up and walked to the back of the line. Why? Because I wanted the rest. You know what I'm saying? I needed that rest in between the event.
The run.
Right. So that was my nemesis.
Yeah.
And so to that point, right, the way that I trained up for the run is that we ran. When we ran for PT, we didn't really run for, like, we did the formation thing because the unit said to do so, but we would run. I mean, run. When we did our platoon runs, we would be gone. And so that was how I did it. Then on top of that, when I go to the gym, I would run. So to train up for run, like you already know, you run. I don't like running, but I had to do it because that's what brought in the paycheck. It is what it is. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it and get it over with as fast as I possibly can. To your point, if you're looking at doing, and I'm just going back to our original example, if you're looking at doing 4 marathons in a year, then you know, and I'm not telling you that you don't already know, you got to do a train up for those things. And maybe the first year is just to get that check mark. I did 1 marathon. That's your first year. The second year, I'm going to do 2 marathons. The third year, you see what I'm saying? So now you're building up to it to where now running a marathon isn't the problem for you. The problem is the consistency of doing them every quarter, because you know after that marathon, there's going to be a long rest period that you're going to have to ingest because of what you just put your body through. So that may mean you may have to do like get in one of those chambers so that your body can go ahead and do a rapid recovery rate. All of those things might be a part of it. But again, that's how you build up to that lofty goal. Was that? Did that make sense?
A lot more sense. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Listen, I appreciate you guys for staying with us. We went a little long tonight. So we're going to run into our final thoughts real quick.
Final thoughts, limiting beliefs. Stop demeaning your own self. Stop making your character be one that you say that man, this is messing me up. Because when it comes to limiting beliefs, it's all about you and how you accept information, whether you accept it from your past, whether you accept it from your surroundings, whether you accept it from people, or you accept it from here. You got to be the one to tell yourself how good things are, how great they can be, and how positive. And it's not just you positive, but you are the person that if you constantly tell yourself, hey, you got some more, you got to build up, you push yourself to higher limits. And that's all we have to do. You got to push ourselves to higher and higher limits to show ourselves that we're better than even we think we are. Because as we spoke earlier, we will put limits on ourselves and say, okay, I want to reach this ceiling. If I can jump 7 feet, I'm good. No, stop putting the limits on yourself and put the work in. When you consistently do the work and make your work consistent, then you'll be a better person. That's all I got.
I'm talk about, we're talking about overcoming self-limiting beliefs, and I kind of wrote down some things throughout the show that I think are important in trying to overcome some of these self-limiting beliefs. And the first thing that I wrote down was some sort of identifying or acknowledging that you have a self-limiting belief. I think that's for a lot of people, just like anything and anything else, is admitting that there is a self-limiting belief. And then I think after that, it's when it kind of comes to like the mindset or the thinking, when that ugly or when that limiting belief rears its ugly head, like challenge it, like try to reframe it or to have a different thought about that thing. And then after that, I think it's important that we set some sort of realistic goals to help us with the limiting belief. Coach a few minutes ago just talked about goals. And then after that, I think in this, along with the reframing, is the self-talk, the positive self-talks. A lot of times we're having conversations in our head about, should I do this or should I do that? So I think if we can kind of switch over and listen to more of the positive side, I think that'd be beneficial. I think having a great support group is key. Having a support group around you when you're trying to go through these things that you're going through, these limiting beliefs, someone to say, hey, man, I had a conversation with this person. This is how I handle it. Talk to Roland, talk to a friend, a homie, a buddy, or something like that. And then I think you need to do something. You need to do some sort of taking some type of action about something. And then last but not least, make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Give yourself some grace sometime. Whenever you're changing in life and you're overcoming certain things and obstacles in your life, you have to understand that you're going to have some setbacks. That's just part of it, and it's okay. As long as you don't live in the setback for too long, you get back out there and you get right back on your horse and you keep moving. So those are in a nutshell, just my overall thoughts on potentially helping you or someone overcome some self-limiting beliefs.
I am going to go. I'm going to forego final thoughts tonight. However, I will say, look in the chat. I dropped the link in there for you guys to download a questionnaire. It's a self-reflective questionnaire on overcoming self-limiting beliefs. I think you will find value in it. Trust me, when I was going through it, I was like, yep, this is going to be good. So that's my charge to everyone. Instead of me doing final thoughts, go download that and have that conversation with yourself. Because like I said previously, everybody has limiting beliefs. And that's the thing that is preventing you from seeing your full potential. So appreciate you guys staying with us. Again, hit the like button if you haven't already. Make sure that you share this with somebody that you think will find value. Hearts of Men podcast every Friday evening, 8 p.m., same time, same channel. Make sure that you come. Don't be selfish. Next time you come, bring a friend. And that being said, let the best version of yourself be a blessing to somebody else. We don't do no
go down and flush them out. We don't play it with these
Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast.